What do LL Cool J, Run DMC, Aerosmith, Jay-Z, Slipknot, Rage Against the Machine, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and System of a Down all have in common? They've all worked with Rick Rubin. Stay tuned for the next episode of Sound Stories with Byron Nash, where I go over the catalog and the amazing career of producer Rick Rubin. Hey friends, how's it going out there? Welcome back to Sound Stories with Byron Nash. In this episode, I wanted to take it down a different path. I know that I focus on the artists, and I think they're the most important thing. They're the people that create the music. But another component that really helps the albums and songs stand out that we love are the people who produce and engineer them. So today I wanted to focus on one of my favorite producers of all time, Rick Rubin. Now, I know people have mixed reviews about Rick. Some people don't like his hands-off approach. Some people don't like the way that he does his thing in the studio, or maybe they expected more out of him. I'm not sure what that is, or I'm not really here to talk about that. What I do want to talk about is how he's been a part of my musical journey and soundtrack of my life, really since the beginning. And it wasn't until the other day when I was really thinking about this episode how much it ties together everything that has been a part of my actual musical journey as an artist, but also as a fan. Back in the day, fans didn't typically know much about producers or care. Like, you didn't think about so and so produced this record. You had to really be like an audiophile, super nerd, super fan to care about that stuff. I was one of those people. When I was growing up, the only producer I was aware of was Quincy Jones. That really stood out, like in the African American community. He was revered, loved, and so he was talked about just as much as artists were because he conducted orchestras and did Michael Jackson's music and George Duke and Patty Austin and all these people. But for the most part, as a fan, I wasn't really aware of producers. And it wasn't until later I realized how important of a role a producer is in shaping the sound and the direction of an artist. For this episode, I'm going to use my own personal timeline to kind of tie all the different Rick Rubin related projects together. For those of you who don't know the background of Rick Rubin, this might be an interesting timeline to tie a lot of things together where maybe your favorite metal artist, you didn't realize that that connects to LL Cool J and what that means. As a young music fan, I loved everything. I grew up on Earth, Wind, and Fire, and P-Funk, and Ohio Players, and Hall & Oates, and Chicago, and all this cool soul music. But then I started to branch out, and I started listening to more pop and radio music like Cyndi Lauper, Madonna. Obviously, Michael Jackson and Prince were instrumental in my upbringing, if you will. But then when I got to the point where I was like listening to music on my own, not just from my mom's collection, one of the first records I had was LL Cool J's Radio. LL was big as hell. I mean, he he and like Run DMC were just humongous in the rap world. I don't even think we called it hip hop yet. So they were like our superstars of the genre. And I remember Radio and I loved it. And then that led into Run DMC because there was the movie Crush Groove and it featured all the big rappers of the time, like Run DMC. Sheila E. was in it. Who was it? The guys with the Jerry curls. I'm drawing a blank, but I'm going to pull a picture up. And so, like, that album was really instrumental in my life, but it was not just because LL was great, it was because the music, the beats were crazy, and the production was awesome. Obviously, Run DMC was sort of the biggest rap group of all time at that point. They're also one of the first, fun fact, groups who had a sneaker deal. I was listening to LL Cool J Radio, that led into Run DMC. This is sort of around the time, I don't know, maybe 86, 87-ish. And I was really branching out into rock, like getting into more metal stuff. I listened to hair metal stuff, White Snake, and eventually getting into the heavier things like Metallica. Beastie Boys were popping at this time. I was probably in eighth grade or something like that. And No Sleep Till Brooklyn was a big song. I mean, obviously, Fight for Your Right was a big song, but No Sleep was the one I really liked because it really mixed the rock kind of hip hop beat, hip hop drums with like rock guitar. And then it was a crazy solo in the middle, and then all the crazy stuff at the end. Here's the dot connector. Rick Rubin produced a lot of this music. And if you really think about it, this is mind blowing even still today. So let's say we have LL Cool J and Run DMC, and then that connects to Beastie Boys. But then I think it was Def Jam at the time. Uh, Beastie Boys, No Sleep Till Brooklyn, had Kerry King from Slayer playing on that song because Slayer was on Def Jam. They were like the heaviest band that was on this like hip hop label that Rick Rubin was producing. But then you think about Aerosmith and Run DMC. So Aerosmith had fallen off a bit, kind of things had changed. They were going through the whole crazy drug period. And then there was a suggestion, I believe it was from Rick, for them to do this collab of Walk This Way. Run DMC didn't want to do it at all. They weren't feeling it. It wasn't their vibe. Ends up happening. They record the song. That collab was one of the biggest songs of the late 80s, but it also was the bridging of the gap of taking rock music and rap music and connecting it together. And it was a big crossover hit. It was great for both artists. Aerosmith got bigger. They kind of had this resurgence, and Run DMC was big as hell because they were now like a household name. So think about this timeline. You have the Beastie Boys, you have Slayer. Beastie Boys are huge. They're touring with Madonna, and then Slayer is on this label. So Rick Rubin produced Rain and Blood, South of Heaven, and Seasons in the Abyss. Mind blowing. I wasn't even into Slayer yet. I didn't know. They kind of scared me at that time. But that was my gateway drug to getting into heavier stuff, was the Beastie Boys. Rick Rubin being one of the connecting threads of all of this stuff. When I first really heard Slayer, it was on South of Heaven. And record scared me. It was aggressive. It was heavy. But what really stood out on there, and I don't even know that I knew this at the time, but if you go back and listen to it, the drums. The drums sound better than any other metal record did at the time. They were full, they were forward, they slapped. It was a hip hop approach to very heavy metal drums. I know some people are going to be in the comments talking shit, but go back and listen to a lot of thrash records of that time, at that time, in that era, and listen to the production of how the drums were sounding. One of the things that makes that record stand out is that the drums, obviously Dave Lombardo's a monster, but they're very forward. They drive the whole record. It's the way they're mixed. It's the production. Now, history has it that Rick Rubin doesn't touch a single knob and doesn't do any type of thing when it comes to actual engineering. I still don't even really care. If sometimes being a producer is just being able to pull the best out of the artist, and I think that's his superpower. I mean, he's been on all the records that I love, so let's just continue the timeline. We go from Beastie Boys, No Sleep Till Brooklyn. Maybe I should go that direction. Beastie Boys, No Sleep Till Brooklyn, Slayer. Now there's Rain and Blood, um, South of Heaven, which is like 88, 87, 88, and then Seasons in the Abyss. All crushing records, all really good sounding drums. The mix was really awesome for that. But then it just keeps going. So I'm in my super metal phase at that point. Like I'm not even a phase, but I'm just listening to a ton of metal primarily. And then I started to want to branch out, and I got a hold of Red Hot Chili Peppers, Blood Sugar Sex Magic. I heard Chili's before that. I liked them, but I didn't really know their music that deeply. I knew Mother's Milk was kind of like their biggest record up to that point. But then when I got that record, I realized again, the drums were slamming. It was very full. It was very warm. Nothing really sounded like that at that time. That was their breakout record. That was the record that made Chili Peppers super big. Later down the road with Californication, that made them like almost like pop star big, like just super humongous. I think the one that really set it off was Blood Sugar Sex Magic. Great songwriting, great mix, great production, funky as hell. Nothing else sounded like it. And then people started trying to sound like it. So then I continued with the timeline of the bands that Rick Rubin has been involved with. Before I get ahead of myself, He also had some involvement with Public Enemy's "It Takes a Million." That record, huge record, very aggressive sounds. I wasn't listening to Public Enemy at the time, but I want to speak on there's still a crossover component of when they got together with Anthrax. Anthrax, another really important band. He didn't produce them. However, Anthrax and Public Enemy's Bring the Noise was another big component of crossing genres, like having metal, yeah, thrash metal band, yeah, Public Enemy, and they were friends and they collaborated, and it was like it was a hit. It was great. Same thing happened with Aerosmith and Run DMC. So there's these really pivotal moments in music history where it was on a path, and then there was like this sort of special moment, and I feel like he's been a part of a lot of those. And I think I don't know whose idea it was to sign Slayer to Def Jam, but how freaking cool! What was the vision? To know that that would even work. Like Slayer of all things was pretty extreme at that time for sure. So let's continue. I stayed a Rick Rubin fan for years, and then I realized, oh my God, this dude has produced so many records that I just love. Again, I whatever Rick Rubin creative sprinkle dust he has that contributes, I feel like there's a theme to it because I just happen to love all these artists. As the 2000s went on, he produced System of a Down. I know he had involvement with Rage Against the Machine. Um, Later, Mars Volta, Slipknot, Volume 3. Then even later, he did Metallica's Death Magnetic, and I think that record slays. That's one of my favorite Metallica records of the later Metallica stuff. I like it better than I do Load. And that little series, that little era of Metallica, I thought that record kind of came back out and put a little bit of pep in the Metallica steps. So I really like what contribution he maybe had with that. Let's think about it. We got Slayer, Beastie Boys, Red Hot Chili Peppers, System of a Down, Rage Against the Machine, and then let's not even forget that the Dixie Chicks. I know that's like a big jump from the groups I'm talking about, but you'd have to have a really good understanding of just artistry to be able to have that type of breadth of work and to be able to connect artists like that. I mean, he was a big reason why Johnny Cash had his resurgence. Johnny Cash was kind of forgotten about in a way. And I think that record really put him back in the mix when he did, I think he did Soundgarden's like Outshine or something like that. Or no, Rusty Cage. He did Rusty Cage. So Rick Rubin's a really important producer. Jay-Z's 99 Problems. Just a simple addition of saying, like, obviously Rick Rubin's not going to tell Jay-Z how to rap. But he said, I remember if you watch Making of the Black Album, or there's a documentary, Jay-Z shows him in the studio. It's him, Rick Rubin, and one of the Beastie Boys. And he hears the beat, and like typical Jay-Z, it's kind of nodding, and then he knows that he's going to tell the story of 99 Problems. And he's like going between himself and the role of the officer. Rick offers Jay the suggestion, why don't we start the song with the hook of the song a cappella? If you're having girl problems, that whole line to start it off a cappella and then drop into the song, Jay-Z goes for it. I don't know the song. I don't know that I want to hear it any other way except for him coming in with that vocal. So even if it's not a thing of like engineering or things like that, and I know that people don't really like the hands-off style, but I think it's really, how do you pull the best out of artists? How do we pull the best out of ourselves? I mean, I know it would be really frustrating to go in a studio with your band and someone goes, hey, what you got? You turn in 10 songs and then they say, awesome, these are good, but go write another 20. And you're like, what? F you, man, So I can see where maybe the tactics or the approach is a little too zen for a lot of people, a little woo-woo. But I'm just saying the records that they did right, I'm just saying that the records that he's been involved with are all killers to me. And so I'm really appreciative of the longevity of his career, some of the things that I think made music go a different direction. I also have his book here, which is not about producing. It's about being an artist. It's about being a creative soul. It's about being a creative spirit. And sometimes as artists we lose sight of that stuff because we're always trying to like either chase the attention, the career, the money, forgetting about the music, forgetting about the artistry, not knowing if we're being true to ourselves, following trends, whatever it is. And that's what I like about this book is that it taps into the essence of being a creative spirit, a creative soul. So I just thought like, wow, what a incredible career Rick Rubin has had as a producer and overall, I don't know, music seer, if you will, of the industry. So I'm gonna go down my list. It's a long list, so I'm gonna have to look. You'll see me looking down, but I'm still here with you. Here's my top 20 Rick Rubin produced or executive produced or Rick Rubin influenced artists, songs, or albums that really have impacted my life. I'm going to start from the back, 20 down to number 1, and give you a little explanation on each. Number 20, Andrew Dice Clay. Most people are saying, who the heck is Andrew Dice Clay? Andrew Dice Clay was a stand-up comedian in the 80s. He did some acting in the 90s, but he was mostly a stand-up comedian. It was very vulgar, if you will. As a teen, it was hilarious. And I remember listening to it with my grandmother and my mom in the kitchen. And but I found out that Rick Rubin produced that. I'm going to say number 19, Johnny Cash. I really didn't listen to Johnny Cash before this. So that resurgence that Johnny had, hold on, I need some water. The resurgence that Johnny Cash had, I thought was a big deal. And that Rick Rubin did a good job with kind of bringing Johnny to the forefront to a younger audience. Number 18, Ed Sheeran. You don't got to like Ed Sheeran, but there's some songs on X that Rick had something to do with that I think were pretty solid. Number 17, Adele, 21. Love Adele. Love 21 especially. That was a really smashing, monstrous record. This should be higher, but I wasn't listening to it at the time. I got into them later, but number 16, Public Enemy. I mean, they're iconic. They're really important to hip hop. They're really important to the culture. Number 15, Jay-Z, 99 Problems. And any other stuff that he's done with Jay-Z. Number 14, I'm going to say Red Hot Chili Peppers, Californication. That is not my favorite record. Not because it's not good. I just was such a fan of Blood Sugar Sex Magic. That spoke to my soul more. I understand why Californication was big. I understand those are the songs, those are the hits. They simplify things and it worked. So whoever's idea that was, whether it was the band or it was Rick, it worked. It needs to be mentioned. Oh, okay. This might be controversial. Red Hot Chili Peppers, One Hot Minute. I know John Frusciante was gone. They had Dave Navarro in the band. But I love that record. I love how it sounds. I like Dave Navarro with them, at least for that record. I love how the drums and bass sound, the recording and the mixes, incredible. I don't know why that album doesn't get enough credit, but I think it's one of their best ones. I really like the songs on there. LL Cool J, number 12. Number 11, Metallica, Death Magnetic. Again, I like that record. I like the songs. I like how it sounds. I felt like it was the beginning of Metallica getting back to the roots of what Metallica does. But I think they kind of got lost along the way, just trying different things, which I think is great. Metallica's always done things their own way. But that record in particular, I thought was a good comeback record for Metallica. Number 10, Slipknot, Volume 3. That's my favorite Slipknot record. Hands down. Every song, top to bottom, aggressive, smashes, Joey Jordison destroying the drums, bands playing almost leaning off the edge. Really feeling that. Next up, we have Run DMC, King of Rock. Again, rap music using rock guitars and blending things together. I was I was like equally jamming Run DMC while I was listening to Megadeth. So it was like it just made sense to me because I actually wanted to be DMC. Like I was really, really into them. Next up, we got Beastie Boys, License to Ill, iconic record, huge in my youth, and it kind of led me into skateboard culture. And the Beastie Boys were my true introduction to Slayer. Number 7, System of a Down, Mesmerize. I love that record. That record feels like it's the one where Darren really stepped up in the vocals, and because of his higher register, balanced out the vocal approach of the band with Serge. I really love that record. Number 6, Mars Volta, De Louse in the Comatorium. That's my favorite Mars Volta, hands down. Fun fact, if you didn't know this, Flea plays bass on that whole record. Go back and listen to it. Crushes. Number 5, System of a Down, Toxicity. I think that's the record that really put System of a Down on the metal pedestal, and it's one of the leaders, which is why like they do shows now and it's stadiums, because it's such good music and everything about it. I think the way that the guitars were recorded, they're kind of dry, punchy, forward, and I just think the songs are incredible. Number 4 would be Blood Sugar Sex Magic. Can't say enough about that record. That was the record that made me a Red Hot Chili Peppers super fan. All right, for my top 3, 3 down to 1, and some people might not think this is fair, but I don't really care. Number 3, Slayer, Seasons in the Abyss. Here you go. Number 2, Slayer, Rain and Blood. And then number 1, Slayer, South of Heaven. I think Rain and Blood is the record that everybody who's a Slayer fan is like, that's my favorite one. That's not my favorite one. I love that record, but I think the one where the songwriting really took itself to the next level in the area of like what makes a good album and the way that it sounded. I don't think anything sounded like South of Heaven. That's my top 20 of Rick Rubin produced albums. So that's it, guys. That's my list of top 20 Rick Rubin produced or related albums. I want to know from you, are there any Rick Rubin albums that stand out? What are your top 3? Leave it in the comments. You have so many things to choose from. Go down the list. Tell me what you like. So thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. I'm having a good time talking music with you, and all the comments and shares and likes. It's been really, really appreciated. So thank you very much. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you do. I'm going to make sure it's down here instead of up there. And tune in next week. Share the videos. Keep rocking. And I got a little video for you where I'm going to do some riffage from the different bands that I love. Peace.